Love, it has been good to me this time around. Things were bound to change when it was found. Sugar never tasted sweeter on my lips. My heart is now intact and I can find no risk. This is love, yeah, love. Never known true love before. Seen so many counterfeits that left me on the floor. This is love, yeah, love. All will come to go two ways. Time it cannot know the bounds, and era don't dictate.
Well, very good afternoon to you, and welcome to Xandermonium, the talk show that gets you talking. I'm Xander Gibb, and coming up on today's show, I will be getting on my soapbox just for a change, so unlike me, I know. I will also be looking at the recent occurrences in Israel with David Weissman, our Israeli correspondent, and I will be taking a sideways swipe at the circus that was billed as the Democratic debate that happened this week with Thomas S. Schmitz. More to come in a mere moment. You can interact with us during the show in the chat room at the bottom of the page, the show page, that is. Keep scrolling down. Now, if it won't let you join in the conversation, all you have to do is join with either Facebook or Twitter, and it will let you join in the conversation. So in order to be a part of that and not to be classified as a guest and just being a bystander in the chat, you need to join. You can also call us on 347-884-9061. That's 347-884-9061, or on Twitter. You can tweet me. My Twitter handle is @XanderGibb, XanderGibb, capital X, capital G. You can tweet David. His Twitter handle is David Weissman, DavidWeissman3, capital W on the W for Weissman. And Thomas's Twitter handle is @Thomas S. Schmitz. That's ThomasSchmitz. Have a look at the show page for today and my tweets. You'll be able to see all of the Twitter handles and the links for the guests today. Don't forget the all-important @ symbol. Tweet me if you're too shy, and I will make your point for you. Please forgive me. I am on flu meds today. I have the flu, and I am soldiering on because I am a little soldier, and I'll be having a lot of chicken soup and sympathy after the show. There's still time to vote in our poll at XanderGibb.com. That's XanderGibb.com. And this week's question is, was the CNN Democratic debate instrumental in cementing a Democratic front runner for you? What say you? Go to XanderGibb.com to vote now, or you can give us a call on this subject or absolutely anything you want to get off your chest on 347-884-9061. That's 347-884-9061. Oh, yes, indeed. And now it's time for Xander's Soapbox. Look out there. So this week was the Democratic Party's debate with Hillary and Bernie, a.k.a. Colonel Sanders, and a few others who I have honestly never heard of. Former Senator Jim Webb, former Maryland Governor Martin O'Malley, and former Governor of Rhode Island Lincoln Chafee, I'm not sure how it's pronounced. Choose your own vernacular for him. I watched as much as I could handle, and 20 minutes in I realized I was watching the Muppet movie by mistake and reluctantly changed channels. Now, in all honesty, the Muppet movie was far more entertaining and left me far less nauseated. But any commentator worth their salt needs to watch some of the debate in order to, yes, you've guessed it, to be able to comment on it. Now, politics aside, I am wondering how many of the politicians' brains were left at the door as they walked in, and how much pontification medication was handed out at the beginning of the debate. Now, this really was the biggest suckfest in the history of suckfests, and the mutual posturing was not only annoying, but also scary, to say the least. Now, none of the real issues were debated, like Barry Obama selling us down the road to Iran and giving the components to make nuclear weapons and smash us into smithereens, or Obama's blindness when it comes to Palestinian issues or anything to do with Islam, or him being able to utter the phrase Islamic and terror in the same sentence. But enough of my severe disappointment with Baz. Let's get to Hillary. Oh, yes, indeed. Fasten your seatbelts. I also got that we are now ordered to forget about Hillary's email server mistakes regarding leaving us wide open for attack and infiltration, and probably a big explanation of why the Benghazi attack intel was ignored. Now, Uncle Bernie says we need to get over it. Bernie Sanders, I, Xander Gibb, am here to remind you that American lives were lost on that day. And the burn, yes, sir, you need to go and tell this to Chris Stevens' widow and take Hillary with you, because she owes her an apology too. Now, Sanders openly admitting to being a socialist, and of course a socialist is exactly what we need in the position of Commander-in-Chief right now. Hell, why not just give the job to Ronald McDonald and be done with it? Because let's face it, the current incumbent has proved to be a clown on many occasions. I'm being too kind, on every occasion. So when it comes to evolving and changing one's perspective on the issues that matter, I can totally associate that as my politics have changed phenomenally over the years. Now, when it comes to Hillary's turnaround on issues such as same-sex marriage and other important issues, I really have to wonder if it is because she has actually changed her perspective or she is just looking for votes. Now, call me cynical, but one really does have to wonder. Now, I'm not looking for your votes. I'm not looking for you to listen. I'm not even looking for you to agree with me. But what I am looking for you to do is to look into it for yourself and come to your own conclusions rather than the watered-down conclusions of those around you. So in conclusion, after watching that debate, I am voting for Anderson Cooper because America has gone mad and everything is excusable as long as you're a liberal or can lie well, which is sadly becoming exactly the same thing. Now, that was Xander's soapbox for this week. If you'd like to come and get on your soapbox, yes, you can come and you can call us and you can tell us exactly what you think, whether it agrees with what I think and feel or not. You can get on your soapbox and you can email me at xander@xandergibb.com. That's xander@xandergibb.com. Oh, yes, indeed. So my guest today will be the fabulous David Weissman, who is our Israeli correspondent. He will be joining us very soon. We're going to talk about Israel. David sent out a tweet this week saying about the fact that very few news outlets were actually reporting what was going on in Israel fairly or accurately, and two of the outlets that he named that were actually reporting fairly inaccurately were Xandermonium and also the show that I do on a Friday night, The Real Side with Joe Messina. Now, he also mentioned Fox in that, not that I've ever been included in commentary with reference to Fox before, but there you go. So call us today during that segment to let us know what you think, 347-884-9061, to tell us about what you think about the Israeli situation. And primarily, we're going to talk a little bit about what the level of responses from this administration. And those of you that follow me on social media will be fully aware of how furious I am with the level of response, but we will stave that for that segment. Then later on, my good friend Thomas S. Schmitz will be on the show. We're going to break down this week's Democratic debate. I think I maybe got it right the first time. We're going to actually talk about exactly what went on there and what didn't happen and what should have happened. Did you watch it? What did you think of it? Were you impressed? And did it kind of give you any idea of a front runner? Not to say that you're going to vote for them, but did it raise anybody up in your esteem? You can call us on 347-884-9061 to tell us about that. Hello to everybody into the chat room. Hello to the guests. Hello to Kathy. Welcome back to the show, everybody. Just a moment to tell you that my TV show, Xandermonium, very original name, I know, the same name as this show, will be back with us next week on Friday the 23rd at 7:30 on Channel 192 on Charter. But fear not, if you do not get Charter in your area, which I know a lot of people don't, you will be able to watch it live on my website. Wrong teeth in today and too many flu meds. You will be able to watch it live on my website in a simulcast or simulcast. I never know how to pronounce that. Call me if you know how to pronounce that word, 347-884-9061. Yes, you will be able to enjoy the show too. So make sure you join us for that. So we are just waiting for my guest to call in, our Israeli correspondent, David Weissman. And while we do, let's have a little tune. This is by, actually, it looks like he is here. So we won't go into a song. I will, everybody seems very relieved in the chat room that's actually not going to happen. So I'm going to go into introducing my first guest. So David Weissman is a journalist based in Israel and writes about what is happening on his own doorstep. Now, as violence increases, the Obama administration accuses Israel of terrorism, damn cheek, as more Jews are killed. So welcome back to the show, David. Are you there,
Thank
David?
You. Yes,
Welcome back to the show. Yes, I can hear you perfectly. It's a pleasure to have you back. Now, firstly, I want to get your initial reaction to this accusation from Barack Obama and his administration that Israel are taking part in terrorism. How do you feel about that, David?
Honestly, I'm not surprised. With his involvement with the war last year, telling us to restrain on fighting the same enemy that we continue to face. So It's not a surprise.
Right. Yeah. I don't think I was surprised either. Sadly, to be honest. But what is it really like living in Israel right now? And do you actually feel unsafe?
Yes, there's some tension. It definitely has that in his calm before the storm type feeling. But we still live our lives. We still go day to day. Do what we got to do. To live. There's security. You see security in different areas, trying to make sure people are safe. But we move on with our lives.
Absolutely. So where do you think all of this bad feeling is coming from? Because there's been an increase in violence. Do you think it's all Palestinians that are kind of anti-Israel and support Hamas, or is this just a segment of the Palestinian people?
I would say probably maybe 50-50, because I do know some Arabs that do support Israel. A lot of it is due to the incitement from Abbas as well as Hamas. But it is a very confusing time among the Arabs in Israel.
Right. So where exactly is the encouragement coming from for the violence, David, would you say?
It is coming from Mohammed Abbas. He is the the Palestinian Authority leader, and he is also a Fatah member. Fatah is another terrorist organization, as well as Hamas. They both incite, they celebrate when a Jew dies, and they encourage it every day. They call on days of rage constantly.
Right. And do you think that this is going to kind of do you think this is going to escalate, and do you think there's going to be more bloody battles to come?
I feel it's going to possibly escalate. I feel personally that we are in a silent intifada. In fact, here's some statistics. In the past week alone, there's been over 472 terror attacks with 3 Jews killed. Just 1 week alone.
Wow. Now that's a lot. Where are these incidents happening, and what is actually happening? I saw some stuff that you shared this week that that they'd attacked some religious monuments. What is all that about?
There was an arson over at Joseph's tomb. These attacks happen pretty much all over Israel. There's been attacks thwarted in Tel Aviv, in Ranana, in Jerusalem, also around Efrat, the Gush area. It seems like it happens everywhere, all over the country.
Right. So David, in essence, do you think that there is a simple solution to this, and is there ever going to be peace?
Simple and definitely not a simple solution. Our leadership is in a very huge, lots of pressure, being the only Jewish country, in the world, basically, and
right.
So it's not simple for sure. Peace is possible. I do hope that it's possible, but I don't see it anytime soon.
Right. So I want to go back a little to some more comments that the Obama administration has made this week with reference to telling Israelis to back down. I mean, how insulting is that, David? What are you supposed to do? As a person that lives in Israel, as a Jewish person, are you just supposed to stand there and be attacked by a Palestinian? How do you respond to this ridiculous commentary by Barack Obama?
Well, I will tell him that I answer to a higher power, God. He encourages us to, fight back. We don't just, let ourselves get killed. We're supposed to fight back. And if we see our brother getting harmed, we help them too. That's part of what we do for each other. We help each other out, and we fight to live.
No, I'm not looking to put words into your mouth. I have my own theories as to why Barack Obama has this level of response. But why do you personally think that he has such I'm gonna just say it, an anti-approach to Jews and Israel? Why do you think it is?
I believe it possibly has something to do with his family. I know he has Muslim Brotherhood connection with his brother, from what I understand. That could be the result. With the Arab Spring that they started when his administration began.
Right.
So that's what I think that might have been starting to all of this.
And he's also saying that both sides need to take affirmative steps towards calming tensions. Now, I don't know what Obama expects the Jews to do, other than to fight back, because surely any kind of steps towards peace, doesn't that take both sides to do something in all of this?
Exactly. It takes both sides. Both sides want, try to make peace. Even now, Netanyahu is calling this, hey, let's continue with peace talks with Abbas. He, still trying to make an effort for peace. But it's obvious the other side doesn't want peace. Right.
So I'm glad you've mentioned President Netanyahu. Oh, sorry, he's the prime minister, isn't he? Not the president. How do you feel about his leadership? Do you feel that his leadership is helpful to Israel, and is he a strong leader?
Yes. Like I said, he has a lot of pressure coming from the United Nations, from the Obama administration, even some of the left-wing people in the Knesset. He has a lot of pressure, and I think he's doing the best that he can under that amount of pressure. And he has my full support on what he's doing. And they already made some security adjustments to try to make the place safer, changing the rules of warfare a little bit. But I support his every move.
So what about, you mentioned the United Nations. You mentioned about the United Nations. What do you think about their response to all of this? Because I kind of think, this is what I can't get. Regardless of my leanings, if I take a step back and look at all of this, I cannot get why the United States government and the United Nations cannot see that what is happening here, that any force that Israel is using is to protect themselves, and what else can they do? Otherwise, we're going to end up with another genocide. Why do you think the United Nations has the level of response that they do, David?
I've seen a lot of comments from United Nations members. It is pretty much anti-Semitism. A lot of hatred comments towards Jews and the state of Israel. Purely anti-Semitism, anti-Israel, no questioning.
Right. Now, I want to know, I want to kind of find out a little bit more about what you think about. I know you also tweeted and shared stuff about Roger Waters of Pink Floyd's fame and his level of response to Israeli-Palestinian issues. But I didn't get any response from him. Now, how do you feel about celebrities like him and Annie Lennox, who I've responded to also? She blocked me and ignored me. How do you feel about celebrities that have this level of impetus without really knowing exactly what's going on? Because let's face it, David, every media outlet out there is slanted one way or another. So that's what most people have to rely on. How do you feel about the way that some of these celebrities respond?
Pretty much ignorant. Very ignorant. I know many of them have good intentions, but the road to hell is paved with good intentions. Just really ignorance, not knowing exactly what the situation is here. Right.
So you also tweeted recently, which I thought was quite interesting, and thank you for including me. You said about that there were very few news outlets. I'm obviously paraphrasing, that were reporting honestly about what was going on in Israel. Why do you think so many news outlets are actually giving this negative slant?
I have a feeling it has something to do with the Obama administration. I just have that gut instinct telling me that's something to do with the powers to be, so to speak. And I know, why do you think Obama and the administration have so much problems with Fox News? Because they, report the truth.
Well, I'm not a big fan of Fox News, I have to say, but I definitely think that they've been pro-Israel of late, and I would hope that they would continue to do so. Now, what would you advise people to do, the people that don't live in Israel, that are unsure about what to believe? Because there's a clear ideology right now that people are basing their assumptions on who is right and wrong in Israel, about how many dead children there are, which we've talked about before, David. It's no way to kind of ascertain who's right and wrong. What would you say people outside of Israel should do to get an accurate picture of what is going on there?
Well, follow the sources in Israel. Follow Jerusalem Post, Israeli National News. Those are very legit news websites that, pretty much tell story, what goes on here.
Right.
There's many more.
Give us some examples.
Okay. Well, you know the story about the teen that was shot, correct?
Yeah.
Well, Muhammad Abbas was saying that Israeli soldiers killed him. In fact, if you were to go to a Jerusalem Post or Ynet, you would see that the same person that Abbas was talking about is actually being taken care of in an Israeli hospital.
Okay.
So, and it shows pictures, it shows proof, as well as other media places that will say a Palestinian was shot, but doesn't show the whole example. And go to these same news organizations, it would show, why this terrorist was shot, because he's had soldiers or they kill the family, or there's always more to the story than what other media outlets report.
I'm absolutely sure, and the thing is that I kind of think that even though you live in Israel, even though you're a Jew, I kind of get the impression you try and be pretty impartial, because you also have a heart for those Palestinians that are suffering in this too. Is that a fair assumption?
Of course. Like I said, I know some Palestinians. They're good people. I see a lot of good in them. A lot of them want peace. A lot of them are tired of the conflict. That's why I hold, United Nations, Hamas, Fatah, the people that I mentioned before. I hold them responsible because they are in a position to make change, to make impact, but all they do is incite violence. And this is why the cycle never ends. So
I want to talk a little bit. I know we talked about this last time. I want to talk a little bit about Hamas because people keep saying to me, Hamas is a democratically elected body, and whilst they are, that's true. They weren't democratically elected in the form that they are now. They have become something more than they were when they first elected. Is that a fair assumption?
Correct. And a lot of that change has caused the Muslim Brotherhood.
Right. But a lot of Palestinians don't support them, and haven't Hamas been guilty of killing Palestinians that don't agree
correct.
with them? Right.
That is correct. And that's
so
why you see
a
lot of...
Go ahead.
That's why you see a lot of Palestinians acting like they're happy to see someone as death, because if they speak their minds, they put their life in jeopardy by Hamas.
Right. And that's a concern. I think that people like Roger Waters and Annie Lennox need to sit up and actually take notice of these things that are happening, because the situation between Palestine and Israel is not as clear as the media would have us believe. And clearly, and I know people on both sides of this conflict, David. I know people who are Muslims that have had to flee Palestine because they don't agree with Hamas, because they would be killed if they stayed. And I know Jewish people who are very torn, very much like yourself, who, whilst obviously they see what is going on, they actually feel for the Palestinian people. So do you think there's ever going to be a possibility of an uprising of the Palestinian people to actually oust Hamas, or do you think that they've got too big for that now?
I think as of right now, because it's not just Hamas, there's other factions involved, and it's too big, but I hope and I pray that there will be an uprising against Hamas. Absolutely,
here too. Now, one of the things, I'm sorry to kind of bring this back to Obama again, but he stated yesterday, I think it was, that Israel will only be secure with a two-state solution. And is he right about that?
No.
And is this
he is
really any of
wrong.
his business? So tell me why he's wrong, David, and then you can answer part two of my question.
Every time we have given... Arabs more land or more say-so in Israel, they have always been able to use that land to build their own infrastructure. And that's why I see a lot of Palestinians that brings Hamas closer with rockets, with
Right.
knife stabbings. It's proven. You have people doing the research. Every time you get more, it brings them closer for attack. So this is why I feel it's absolutely false.
Right. So what? So for those of us that don't live there and don't understand it, what would a two-state system actually mean? Would it mean that Palestine has a say in what goes on in Israel and vice versa, or not?
From what I understand what the two-state solution is, one, they would go back to the 67 borders, which would bring them a lot closer to Jerusalem. Jerusalem would also be divided. And yet you're right, that they would have more say-so about what goes on as well.
Right. So I'll tell you what my theory is. There's a lot of circular stuff going on here for me, like the fact that Obama has said that he will sign this agreement with Iran to give them nuclear capabilities and let them police themselves. Now Israel has been, as far as I can remember, as long as I've been around, has been an ally to the United States. So if the United States arms the combatants of its allies, what does that say about the United States, David?
It says I don't think they know what they're thinking. I don't understand why they would trust Iran. I mean, they are they're the head of all the terrorist organizations.
Right.
So to give them this much leeway is ridiculous.
Because they've threatened Israel and they've threatened America, and so it's kind of like let's put this in simple terms. If somebody threatens to kill you and your family, and I buy them a gun for Christmas, that's lunacy. Why would I do that to someone who had threatened to kill you and your family? But that is exactly what is going on in this situation with Iran. I mean, it's been suggested of late that. Do you remember when President Obama was first standing for the presidency? People suggested that he was a Muslim. People are starting to say that again. Do you think that that's fair commentary, or do you think that is just, what do you think it is?
That's very hard to say. I mean, his actions are showing that he is, even though his words now saying that he's not. So
right.
I guess that's up to the person to decide that.
Absolutely. So I want to ask you. We're getting to the end of our time together, but obviously we've been you've been following the presidential debates. We've had the first Republican one and the first Democratic one. Which U.S. presidential candidate do you think would be best for Israel right now?
I feel Ted Cruz would be best for Israel right now. He is not afraid to admit who the enemy is. He's been to Israel several times. He is very pro-Israel, has a good relationship with Netanyahu, and he knows the dangers that not only Israel faces, but America faces, because we both have the same type of enemy. And in fact, I've actually started a campaign here for Cruz, for Americans that live here.
Wonderful. And didn't you want to mention something about a certain sports team that had some victory this week? That's
correct. I'd like to give a shout out to my team, the New York Mets. Good job, guys. Now next we're going to beat the Cubs in the next series and make it to the World Series.
Absolutely. You see how hospitable I am, David. I'm a Yankees fan, but I think that the Mets win was definitely good for the New York area. So I was glad to be able to let you share that. We've come to the end of our time together, David. It's always a pleasure to have you on the show. Tell people where they can find you on social media.
Sure. You can find me on Facebook, David Weissman, and also on Twitter at David Weissman3, and that's WEISSMAN. And my column that I write for is Dispatches from the Conservative Underground.
Wonderful. We will make sure to share your links, David. But for now, keep on with what you're doing. I think it's imperative for people to get a picture of exactly what is going on, because I'm getting sick, both as a journalist and somebody that supports Israel, of people just taking notice of the watered-down opinions of others, and especially those who should know better, like celebrities. So thank you for your impetus. Keep on keeping on, David, and I hope you will join us again at some point.
Definitely.
Have a wonderful day.
And thank you for having me on.
It's a pleasure. Thanks a lot, David. Take care. That was David Weissman, our Israeli correspondent. Make sure you follow him on Facebook and Twitter and check out what he has to say. It's imperative that we don't just take everything that's in the media as read, because most media outlets have an axe to grind. Check into their sponsors, see who's sponsoring these news organizations, and really check the facts before you make your decision, because otherwise, as we said, what you're doing is you're just basically taking the watered-down opinions of others. So that was David Weissman. Thanks so much for joining us today. My next guest, Thomas S. Schmitz, is a broadcaster, writer, politician, and chairman of American Grizzlies United. He's also not afraid to speak out on the issues which matter. That's probably why we are friends. So I'd like to welcome back to the show the one, the only, Mr. Thomas S. Schmitz. Welcome back to the show, Thomas. How are you doing?
I'm good, Xander. How are you today?
I am fabulous. Apart from the fact I've got flu. I've got the end of this flu bug thing, and so I'm hooked up on flu meds. So I don't know if that's a good thing for the show or a bad thing, really. But that will. Thank you very much. And how is your cat today? We have to say hello to your cat.
You know what Kalki's doing right now as we speak? He's in the kitchen asleep in a paper bag.
I love it.
He's been fascinated with this paper bag for about an hour, and he just finally curled up and took a nap in it. We were playing hide and go seek, and he won, and now he's just taking a nap.
Wonderful. That sounds like a plan. I'll be doing the same myself right after the show. Yeah. Be assured. So let's get to this debacle that was laughingly called a debate from last week. Now, firstly, I'm not sure if it's just me, but I only recognized Hillary and Colonel Bernie, and the rest were seemed like they were dragged in at the last minute to make up the numbers. Did you know any of the others before that night, or what?
No, not at all. Had no idea who they were. Absolutely not.
Good. Do you think that was intentional, or do you think that was...
Oh, you know, who knows these days? Everything seems to be so put on that you just have no idea what's going on. You know, I think the biggest takeaway from the debate was they really must believe at this point that the American people are stupid, because this was just this communist competition to see who could give away the most free things. I mean, you know, Mrs. Clinton, bless her heart, was just giving everything away, you know, free college for illegal aliens and free this and free that, you know, and that she told the CBC about a month or two ago, she was it was very reminiscent of McGovern when he wanted to do, I think he called it the demo grant, where every child born, for the children, every child born in America gets a $1,000 savings account. And Mrs. Clinton was telling the CBC this about a month and a half ago, that she wanted to bring a savings account for every child born in America for $5,000. You know,
wow. Where's that money?
How are we going to
see? This is the thing for me. This is the thing for me, Thomas. A lot of those things are kind of are a little bit applaudable, but where is the money coming from, given the fact that we have such an enormous gaping deficit right now? Where is money coming from to pay for those things?
oh, well, she wants to take it from other people. You know, people forget that before Barack Obama came on the scene, she was the one that we all called a communist, and for good reason. You know, she's on record as saying, you know, very extravagant, lavish, Marx-esque things like, you know, we need to stop thinking about the individual and start doing what's best for society. We need to take things away from the top tier to give to the lower tier. You know, it's very much from each according to his ability, to each according to his need. That's the basis of Hillary Clinton, and it always has been. But then we've got this Overton window situation where, because Barack Obama is just so blatantly radical and extreme, that it makes her appear to be centrist when, you know, she hasn't changed her positions at all, but the Overton window just kind of moves it over a little bit, and then it puts her in the middle where she hasn't really moved at all. She's always believed in these things. You know, think back before he came on the scene, she was the one we were all screaming communist at, and for good reason. You know, her record shows that she wants to take money from one group of people and give it to another.
So that brings me on to a really good point. Now, I have evolved politically over the past few years, so I would be the last one to say that people don't have the right to change their opinion. But obviously, I'm not looking for votes, and I'm not looking for listeners. I'm not looking for people to buy my product. If they do those things, they do it because they want to. Now, myself and some others have suggested that maybe some of the changes with Mrs. Clinton have been to attract votes, like her change on same-sex marriage and various other real kind of pole positions that she's held for a long time. Do you think that these things have been more to do with evolution or to do with attracting votes?
Well, she's so disingenuous. I mean, I see the wisdom behind adapting to the times. You know, there is much wisdom in that, and it's necessary. You don't really have a choice. But with the Clintons, I mean, they're just such darn liars. I mean, does anyone believe them anymore? I mean, she's so... she will say anything to get elected. She's sort of this political prostitute who will go towards the money. In this case, it's the constituents that would possibly vote for her. I don't see how anyone can trust her anymore. It's just so obvious when she talks that she's disingenuous and lying, and everything has been so rehearsed and planned out and focus grouped. I mean, I really don't understand how anyone can trust Hillary Clinton. It's kind of like, you know, if the devil himself and her made a pact, and he said, I will give you unlimited wealth and power and success, and all I ask in return is your soul, she would say, what's the catch? You know, that's the kind of woman that she impresses upon me. You know, I don't believe her. I don't see how anyone can. She's fake.
Wait, Thomas, I have to stop you there, because didn't you hear that Bernie Sanders has decreed that we're not allowed to talk about anything bad that Hillary's done in the past? We can't talk about Benghazi anymore. We've got to forget about the email stuff. But what I want to know is why. Why do we have to forget about because the thing is that what we're doing is we're looking at who's going to lead our country, and surely a part of that process is to look at the things that they failed at, because we need to analyze the potential of whether they're going to do that again.
She, you know, not being able to talk, of course they don't want to talk about those things because she's so guilty. I mean, you know, our ambassador died, you know, there was no reason for that. I mean, give me a break. It was September 11th. You upped the security in the Middle East. I mean, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to know that. I mean, the bag boy from Ralph's knows that. I mean, give me a break, you know. So they don't want to talk about that, and they don't want to talk about the email, and then they tell these half-truths. It's just so Clinton-esque. They've used the same pattern for 30 years. You know, they come out and they deny it, and then they come out and tell some half-truths, and then they just plan, their strategy is to wait it out and then come out and say, oh, well, that's old news, you know, and that's what the Clintons have done for years, and then they always keep getting away with it.
But there's method in their madness, isn't there, Thomas, just from the perspective that they know that your average American voter is not going to research the things that they're saying. And we can see that just from social media, that people are throwing all these maymays out there, these comments out there. You know, I saw a maymay the other day that said the reason that Benghazi happened is because the Republicans capped the spending on security. And I'm like, where's the evidence for these things? Because I'm equally as willing to chastise both sides, as are you. But do you think that they rely on this fact that the average American voter won't go and research this information?
Oh, yeah, they do. They do, big time. You know, everything is social media and Saturday Night Live. You know, I remember watching Howard Stern during the 2008 election, and he was doing his man on the street thing with one of his employees, and they were asking people if they thought that Sarah Palin was a good vice presidential candidate for Senator Obama to choose, and they were like, oh, yeah, we think she's great. You know? It's like, come on, people. You know, no one's paying attention. So I don't know. I mean, we'll see what's going to happen, but there's like this undercurrent roaring. I mean, I think people are waking up, and I think there's going to be a lot of protest voting, and we're seeing that already in the polls. It's reflected with Donald Trump. Not that polls mean anything at this point anymore, but I mean, he has a strong support base, and there's a lot of things about him that are more populist than conservative, and people don't care, and it's simply like a big walking middle finger that they're given to the primary right now, because he's not a politician. People are mad. They're tired of the same lies that we're getting, like we saw in the debate the other night. It wasn't even really a debate. It was just this 2-hour propaganda nonsense of who can give away the most things. Everything was just given away.
Let me stop you for a second, Thomas, because we have a question from the chat room. Kathy in the chat wants to know if you will be voting for Trump.
If the election was today, I would. If the election was today, I would vote for Donald Trump, but it's not today. You know, there's still a long ways to go. I don't, you know, we'll see people pulling out. When do we start voting? Iowa's in January or February, I guess. So, you know, a lot can happen between now and then. But yes, if the election was today, I would vote for Donald Trump. Absolutely, with no hesitation whatsoever.
I'm not sure I would, but I never choose this early on. I have front runners, but I kind of I never want to back any horse this early on in the race. But I want to get back a little bit to the Democratic debate. I want to ask you, Thomas, what aside of the posturing and nauseating implicating taking place bothered you the most?
Well, just it was so put on. It was just because, you know, they weren't going to treat the GOP that way, and so here's their own camp. You know, the CNN's got their own people there who they will all end up supporting, and you know, some of Anderson Cooper's questions, you know, seem like, you know, will you say anything and stuff. So then he can turn around, you know, months from now and say, see, no, I held her feet to the fire, when they really could have gone into Benghazi. You know, she had an opportunity to explain what happened in Benghazi, and she didn't. You know, she blamed it on the Republicans, or she blamed it on this. You know, when they asked her about her enemies, you know, if you notice, all of them were Americans except for Iran. You know, that's very telling in and of itself. But I think that bothered me the most. They really didn't answer any questions that most Americans have, and Benghazi's a big deal, and, you know, laughing off the email thing, that's a big deal, you know, and to say, oh, I've shown all these emails, but the fact that there was a server in the first place, you know, it kind of begins and ends right there, you know, and we're kind of getting away from that, but there wasn't supposed to be a server in the bathroom in Colorado or wherever the heck they had it. It was supposed to be a .gov address. We all know that. Come on, you know, she was doing some more monkey business like the Clintons have always done, and it's like this time warp. All of a sudden we're back in the 90s and there's all these Clinton scandals again. You know, they don't go away and they won't change, and she doesn't deserve to be president. It's not her turn. But you know, when
whose turn is it, though, Thomas? Whose turn is it?
Well, it's whoever is out there with the right message at the right time for the right reasons, a real public servant. It's their turn, you know, someone who can fix this mess. And because we have a lot of time, we don't really know who that person is going to be yet, but I like to believe that that person will rise up above the others and come forth and lay out a plan to revive and restore this country and to clean up this mess, because it isn't that hard. You know, they act like this is such a big, complicated thing, and my goodness, it's not. It's just about, you know, you look at the budget and you lay it out there, and this department is spending this, and this is the return we get on it. Okay, it goes. You know, half that nonsense in D.C. could be given back to the states, you know, with a red pen and shut down some of those places, and there's a lot of money right there to go right back into the coffers, you know. Buy, you know, $1 million worth of pencils. That's a better investment than free Obama phones and all the other nonsense they've been spending money on the last 6 years. But, you know, it doesn't take a rocket scientist, and they act like it's just this big, huge, you know, you need to be some kind of genius to sort this mess out, and you don't. It's not that hard. They're doing a lot of stuff wrong, and it just needs to be fixed. Just do it and stop talking about it, stop focus grouping it, and stop all this nonsense that we see every single day. You know, that nothing ever gets done because they just talk about it. You know, Margaret Thatcher used to say that in America they do the PR first and then the policy, where in England they do the policy first and then the PR, and that makes a whole lot more sense than what we're doing now. But yeah, I would just like to see someone get this mess cleaned up and show the American people that it doesn't take some kind of, you know, Ivy League, Harvard, Princeton, Yale, the real axis of evil, you know, educated person to do this kind of stuff. You know, our founding fathers and mothers, they didn't intend these to be politicians to be a career. You were supposed to go to D.C. and serve your country and then go back to the farm or the store or whatever your profession was. But now it's a career, and there's a lot of problem there with that in and of itself. So, I don't know, we're still so far away from the actual voting day that, you know, anything can happen. I just think that at this point we've got to stop allowing the Clintons and the media to just kind of whitewash over all this stuff and pretend like, oh, that's old news, or oh, that's a Republican conspiracy, and oh, this and oh, that. No, this is serious. Americans take their country seriously.
But
and, you know, enough is enough.
But do you think that there is an element of this undesirable commentary and infiltration on both sides of the camp? Because let's face it, it's imperative for us to comment on, you know, the good and the bad on both sides. Would you not agree?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, there's a lot of Republicans who are responsible for this mess. You know, with that, I kind of think that's what's going on. The baseball that's going on in the House of Representatives, why they can't figure out who to put in the speaker chair, because, you know, they for a while were saying, oh, Paul Ryan and stuff. Well, you know, he's responsible for a lot of the excess spending that happened during the Bush years. And, you know, President spent too much money. You know, I think President Bush was a good man, and he was the right president for the right time. I mean, come on, Al Gore during 9/11, he'd be writing poetry. But, you know, President Bush
but you
too much money.
You don't support all of Bush's decisions, do you?
No, not at all. He spent too much money. He spent too much money. You know, it's really that simple. And Paul Ryan was there, you know, defending the spending at that time. And that's what got us in a lot of this trouble, because then you've got these Republicans out there spending money, and then it blurs the line between Republican and conservatives. And, you know, conservatives, not that they don't spend money, it's just they think about it before they spend it. You know, they don't try to.
I want to ask you. Let me ask you this question. Sorry, because it's just kind of.
No worries.
Me. Now here's the thing. Now, I was a lifelong Democrat. I don't consider myself to be a Republican. I really consider myself nowadays to be a libertarian. But do you think that all Democrats are liberals and all Republicans are conservatives, or is there a whole kind of like chasm in between?
Oh, there's a whole chasm in between. The perception, thanks to the media, is that all Republicans are conservatives and that all Democrats are liberal. Now, in the Democrat Party, they had their civil war, and the Progressive Caucus won. The Congressional Black Caucus and the Progressive Caucus, they got together. They kicked all the Blue Dog Democrats out. They had that in '06, that war, and the Progressives won, and that's when Nancy Pelosi was handed the gavel. Evan Bayh was the last kind of normal Democrat, and he was so pressured to vote for Obamacare that he just said screw it and did it and then resigned, because there was a party left him. He was the last kind of normal semi-Jeffersonian Democrat. But now they're communists. I mean, like let's not mince words. I mean, what we saw the other night was, take money from the rich people and give it to the poor people, instead of creating new money.
Well, he
new
admitted he was a socialist, didn't he? He admitted he was a socialist. What does that say for American leadership?
Yeah, on the stage, campaigning to be president of the United States, we have an actual self-admitted socialist on the stage. Isn't that something? That's something. I know what my grandfather would say if he was alive. He would take one look at the television at Mr. Sanders, and he would go back to his newspaper and he'd say, "Yep." That's exactly what Papa would say.
I really wasn't sure how to respond to that, though, Thomas, because surely socialism is a dirty word.
It is a dirty word, but they're not teaching our children that anymore. I remember being at the Verizon store a couple of years ago, and I had to take some extra time because I had to talk to those young men there because they were telling me about how everything about socialism and communism, it's not that bad, and there's some good aspects to it, and they were using Cuba as the model. So, the 3-hour phone transfer turned into a 4.5-hour because we had to, set these young men straight on what was going on. No, Cuba is not a model for how things should be done, but they're not teaching them that at school. They just don't. It's really sad, and that's I would like to see the PTA take over instead of the teachers unions because things worked a lot better when the moms were in charge. A group of moms, they can get anything done, and it would be nice to see the PTA rise again and take the power away from the teachers unions because that's where this lies. We all know that. It's kind of obvious. They're not teaching children civics anymore. I had civics when I was growing up. I'm sure you did too. They don't teach it anymore. They don't teach the children that they're in charge, that the president is allowed to be the president because we choose. They are not teaching civics. By taking civics out of the classroom a couple decades ago, it speaks a lot for itself.
I wasn't educated. I went to school in England, and so my knowledge of American education is kind of very limited. Even now, when people tell me what grades their kids are in, I can't work out how old they are from what they tell me. It's just it's a total
homework. You understand that people are in charge. You get that. We've got a generation of kids who don't understand that basic American concept that the people are in charge. They don't get that.
The worry is that when the people are not in charge, when it's all left to big government, we actually end up losing our voice.
Yeah, big time. Oh, yeah. And that's coming. We see that more and more every day with, you can't say this, you can't say that. On The View the other day, Raven Simone's actual argument was my mom said, if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all. And the audience applauded. Well, oh, my goodness, that's a recipe for disaster, not talking.
I thought you were going to say about... I thought you were going to say about Ann Coulter being on there, and she said, I can't remember it verbatim, but she said something about that Ann Coulter wasn't very nice and didn't say very nice things. She went, "You're the one who lit up Twitter last week by saying you wouldn't hire somebody named Juanita or some ethnic name," and she shut up right away. I'm not
they
an Ann Coulter fan, by the way,
ethics.
personally.
Yeah, their ethics are so situational. Yeah, it's something. But I have faith. The American people have been through so much since in the last 200 years, and I think the American people will fix this. It won't be D.C. It will be the people, and it'll be people, like you, with your show and talking and educating people and giving people's opinions a platform, because the people can sense that something's terribly wrong in D.C. They may not be able to articulate, and that's okay. They can tell. So that's why we have elections. So we'll see what happens. But I have faith in the American people. I know the American people will fix this. I know it.
Absolutely, I do too. We're coming to the end of our time together, Thomas, but I want to kind of get a sense of something for the people in the chat room. Now, there are some people in the chat room that don't like Bush, that maybe don't agree with some of the things that you've said. But I have an ideology that we don't all have to agree, but what we need to do is that we need to find a consensus of what we do agree on to build upon to make America a better place. Would you agree upon that? Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. President Bush made a lot of mistakes, and the number one mistake being he spent too much money. Conservatives aren't supposed to waste money, and he did. And then that blurred the line between Republican and conservative right there, and that's still a problem to this day. But yes, he spent way too much money. But I do believe that he was the right president for the right time. I mean, I cannot imagine Al Gore going through 9/11. President Bush did.
When he came into power, there was a surplus, wasn't there, from Clinton? And then when he left office and handed over to Obama, there was a huge deficit.
Yep, he spent too much money. He spent too much money. It's really that simple.
Well, we have come to, sadly, once again, have come to the end of our time together. People want to know in the chat room what the AGU is, Thomas, because we refer to it.
Grizzlies United. It's a 527 political org. It came to be in, I think it was around 2009, and originally it was to help the candidates, the Mama Grizzlies that Governor Palin had endorsed. And it was just a bunch of people from across the country who worked for love of country instead of money, and it was because Governor Palin was endorsing candidates that weren't career politicians. They were just, regular people, moms and dentists and just workers. And so these candidates, they didn't have, access to, fancy graphic artists and poster makers and message wordsmiths and stuff. And so AGU was just a very fluid conglomerate of people across the country who would donate their skills and not sell them for the candidates. They would do it for love of country. So if some candidate, needed some grassroots, artwork and stuff, they would do it and do it for free because they love their country, not for a paycheck like the political consultants do. And that's what it originally was. And then over time, it's kind of evolved into just this group of really good pro-America people who have their own projects in their own states, and everyone helps each other. It's kind of like a digital Rolodex, you might say. If one person is working, and they're political projects, but, some person is working on a project and maybe they need a lawyer, and so the database, will find out someone who can help them in their area, or just put the word out, hey, does anyone know someone who knows about XYZ? A lot of people are doing it really local, going all the way down to city council and stuff, and they're showing up at the meetings and saying, hey, I don't like this. Stop spending my money on this. Fix the potholes. And maybe they don't have the information, the knowledge, or the attorneys and stuff, and so we'll find people to hook them up that will do it for free, because what we're fighting is something with people with a whole lot of money, to create these campaigns, not for politicians, but for an issue. And
absolutely.
So
I'm sorry, I have to stop you, Thomas. I would love to speak to you for longer, but we've gone over time, and I'm conscious I want you to be able to share where people can find you on social media, where they can talk to you more. I know people in the chat room have got questions. Where are you on social media?
I'm on Twitter. It's Thomas S. Schmitz, SCHMITZ, and there's 3 S's in the middle, and so it's Thomas S. Schmitz, and that's on Twitter.
Absolutely, and I would like to thank you so much for joining us today, Thomas S. Schmitz. I hope you come back and join us again very soon, and we hope you have a wonderful weekend.
Thank you. You too, Xander. Have a great weekend. I hope you feel better, too.
Thank you very much. Absolutely. Take care. Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.
That was Thomas S. Schmitz. Make sure you go and check him out on Facebook and Twitter. Tell him that Xander sent you. I just want to say to the people in the chat room, this is the thing about guests that we have on the show. You don't have to agree with them, but the way that we actually find out more about what's going on in the world is listening to other people's perspectives. I don't care if you agree with me or disagree with me or agree with the guests or disagree with the guests. That's totally that's your privilege because this is America. But thank you to Thomas Schmitz for joining us today. You can find him on Facebook and Twitter, and you can find him at agu.com. So that is the end of our show today. Next week will be our 3-year anniversary. Can you believe it? 3 years of Xandermonium. Confirmed guests already are Ty will be co-hosting with me next week. We have Colton Ford. We have Anne-Marie Morale from the Politi Chicks. And I'm just looking down my list. We've got a few more that have confirmed. So that will be a great show next week. Make sure that you join us. Thanks to everybody in chat. Thanks to Joe. Thanks to Kathy. Thanks to all the guests. Thanks to David Weissman, our Israeli correspondent, for joining us. I hope you all have a fabulous week. Friday, will be the second series of Xandermonium TV show. You can watch that on channel 192 on Charter. And my brain has just gone now. Too much flu meds. If you don't have Charter in your region, you can watch the TV show live on my website at xandergibb.com. Thanks for all the well wishes in the chat room. I'm just getting over this virus and it's kicking my butt, but I will be strong and fighting fit for our 3-year anniversary episode show. So make sure to join us next week. That will be a special one. I forgot what I was going to say. So that's it. Thanks for joining us today. I hope you enjoyed the show, and I love you all. Bye-bye.
Love and affection can sometimes lead you in the